got a quick video for you guys today. This is the dust collection boot for my DeWalt DW716. I have these for sale at inspirewoodcraft.com. Some of you have already bought them. Actually, a lot of you. We were totally overwhelmed by how many of you guys purchased these. Thank you, by the way. But I want to do a standalone video to show you exactly how to put it on there, the do's and don'ts, what it can and can't do so that everyone's on the same page. And of course, this is for other people looking to get better dust collection out of this saw, which has atrocious dust collection from the factory. So what this is a piece of silicone mat. It's cut to a very specific size and sort of Space Invader shape. It has a smooth side, it has a matte side. I'm going to show you how to install that here in a second. And it's cut to this shape so that it can collect as close to 100% of the dust from this machine at all of the travels this machine was meant to do. Because we can use it through all of its normal stock travels, we can't get 100% dust collection out of this, but it does a really good job at 90s, at bevels, miters, compound angles, up to what you would normally set the saw at if you were cutting crown molding flat on the deck. Out of the package, you get this, the dust boot itself, only yours will be clean. I've used this one. I do not include the magnets, and that's because people get very partial to what kind of magnets they like to use on their equipment or in their projects. I used these ones. These ones came out of an old magnetic tool holder that I didn't need anymore, so I salvaged the magnets, and they work. They stick to metal, it holds it in place, and that's all I really need to know. When you get the dust boot, it'll be clean. You can install it. But if this gets dirty, you take it off. When you put it back on, you have to make sure that these two ears right here are clean. We don't want any dust right here. This is grippy. This is extremely slick. That fine dust on this smooth surface makes it very slick. So we want to make sure those two ears are clean so that when we put the magnet on there, it actually sticks and grips to this and it doesn't allow it to move. If you put this on here dirty, it allows it to slip and move. I have not had an issue with that, but it's just a good thing to keep in mind. So just always make sure those are clean and it'll stick just fine. Now, when we put it in there, it's going to go in a U shape, and then these two tabs are going to cross each other like this. So what you're going to end up with is sort of this tube shape that goes in there. And those overlapping tabs keep the sawdust that comes up from bouncing off the top of here and just falling out all over the place. And it gives us a little more suction down here where the dust is actually being created. At that point, these two ears are gonna pop up like this, and that's how it's gonna mount in the machine, just like this. So when I install it, I just kind of make that tube shape. I overlap those tabs. We put it right into the factory dust port and up. And you can see where that tab is going to go right behind that bracket and then up, just like this. We'll put a magnet on here, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side. Both sides are cut to the same shape, so it works on both sides the same. Now, with the vacuum hose not hooked up yet, I can see some light coming through here from the factory dust port. That's totally fine. But the stuff on the bottom we can seal up a little bit. If I just pull this forward just a little bit, the factory dust port starts as a circle, and when it comes forward, it turns into a rectangle. So by pulling on this, we're just moving it a little bit and allowing that silicone to go in there and form itself to that kind of odd shape that's in there. And at this point, we're totally ready to make cuts. If you cut your material flat on the table, so if I'm cutting flat like this, you're probably almost never going to run into a problem until you start getting into thicker material. And that's because where this dust boot comes down, if it sticks out past the fence here, that's not necessarily a good thing. We want to push that back so that it doesn't come in contact with that. So if you're cutting your material tall or vertical, you just want to make sure that that boot just doesn't come in contact. And right here where it's at, I don't have anything to worry about. If you want to do a compound miter, let's say up to, we'll put the stops on for crown molding, or actually we're already there. I should be able to cut crown molding here, no problem. You can see the boot just slides right over this guy. It doesn't get in the way of the blade. It doesn't move. It doesn't pull on this. Everything stays right where it's supposed to be. And I can come in here and I can cut this. If you're cutting a really tall piece, well, then that would be an issue because the boot is going to get in your way. Most people cutting these crown molding angles aren't going to be cutting such a thick piece, I would assume, because you're going to be cutting crown molding, which is going to be thinner in volume. So I don't think it's something that you're going to have to worry about. I think for most people, traditional cutting, you're going to be just fine. Now, a couple things to be mindful of. This boot is designed so that when the guard closes, it goes to the inside of the boot, but occasionally it could actually go to the outside, especially if you've had it laying down on some sort of a bevel cut and this is relaxed and kind of shifted this way a little bit. It's very easy to fix. You just shift it back to where it's supposed to be and it'll work like normal again. But one of the things that I recommend, and this is how I normally cut anyways, I'll make my cut, and when I'm done with the cut, I let the saw power down until the blade stops spinning, and then I bring it back up. And in the case of having the dust collection boot on there, that just means that if this was to come inside of here, it wouldn't get ruined or come off or have damage at all because the blade's not spinning anyways, and I can just come in here and just tweak this a little bit until it works right again. So it's a pretty easy fix. You just have to be a little bit mindful and make sure that you're watching what it's doing. Now, another thing to be mindful of is small offcuts that don't have anywhere to go. A lot of times on a cut like this, what's left here is unsupported as far as the fence goes. That offcut can fling back behind the saw. When we have a dust collection boot on though, that piece could actually end up in the dust collection boot. And when that happens, it can get sucked all the way into the hose and down into your vacuum, or it can clog up the dust port in the back. It can also slide down if it's too heavy and hit the back of the blade. When that happens, it hits the back of the blade and it kind of shatters the thing and it gets sucked up. Sometimes it can clog. Again, if that happens, power the machine down, take this boot off, unclog it or whatever needs to happen, and then put the boot back on just like you did the first time, and you should be good to go. Just remember to clean those tabs off or those ears before you put it back on there. Man, I really got to get that squeak fixed. I think that's it. So that's all the ins and outs. Again, if you've already bought it, this is a placeholder for you to come back and be able to maybe have some questions answered. And again, if you're just looking for better miter saw collection for your DW716, these are available at inspirewoodcraft.com. This has worked really good for me since finally getting this final design dialed in. I love the fact that I might not have 100% dust collection, but it gets almost all of it. And I'm able to retain all the working normal angles that my saw was meant to have to begin with from the factory. So that's a huge plus. Anyways, hopefully that helps you guys out, and we'll see you guys in the next video.